We are about to see a very crazy snowstorm on Thanksgiving weekend. What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. All right, here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to discuss with you today. We have an Alberta Clipper system that's currently moving through parts of the upper Midwest, and then we have two very big snowstorms that we are watching. The first one is going to start developing around late Thanksgiving, early Black Friday, and then the second one is going to develop in the first couple of days of December, which will be next week. So we have a lot to get to and a lot to discuss for you guys today. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. All right, starting off here is the North American model for you guys. We're using the NAM because now we can kind of get a general idea of how close this is going to get. We can start using medium range models, especially for the Clipper system, and now potentially the 28th, 29th, and 30th, just to some extent to show how this is going to develop and just to kind of give you a general idea of what may be happening. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So here's the situation that we have for you right here. We have the Clipper system that's moving through parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, and there are some winter storm warnings that are in effect at this current point for parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Let's go ahead and show you that winter storm warning, as a matter of fact, for Minneapolis. Here it is for you guys. We are looking at this right here. Oh my goodness. We're looking at potential potent snowstorm will arrive today and tonight for parts of Minnesota. We're looking at 6 inches of snow for central Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. But this is a very interesting situation. Winds will increase later today and tonight with gusts as high as 45 miles per hour, and visibilities could be a quarter of a mile or lower at times. That is near blizzard conditions, ladies and gentlemen, and that's just from this Clipper system that's moving through right now. So that is a very, very telling sign of how strong this is actually getting. But as time moves on, the Clipper system starts to move out. You start seeing some more mountain snow on the 26th, and now it's Thanksgiving. And this Clipper system isn't quite done yet. You do start seeing some more snowfall, especially in the upper peninsula of Michigan and throughout all of Michigan, as a matter of fact, after that 5,400 meters line moves further to the east. You're looking at this right here. This looks like it's mainly going to be lake effects snow that's going to be developing very quickly off Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. You're going to want to watch out for that, especially if you're tuning in from Michigan. For Thanksgiving, Michigan is the one state I am watching the most because of travel and all of that. If you're in Michigan and you need to travel, probably today would be the last day for you to do that. Yes, there will be some rain and all of that, but then it's going to clear out before the snow starts to come. And especially if you're in western Michigan, you guys could really start getting a lot of impacts from this. So that is something potent that we're going to continue to watch, and we'll keep you updated on for Thanksgiving travel. But my goodness, this continues all the way through Thanksgiving. It kind of tapers off except for the lake effect for parts of Michigan right here, but that's what you're seeing, especially going into parts of New York, Pennsylvania, Vermont, New Hampshire, as this Clipper system starts to move into Quebec as well. So we're going to want to pay attention to that and keep you updated on that, as well as I'm getting a couple of emails. I don't know why. But we do have another thing that we're watching. It's right here on this side of the screen for you, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Thanksgiving/Black Friday system that's developing. And this is actually going to be a very rare combo, as a matter of fact. So the system is going to kind of be a combination of an Alberta Clipper and a Colorado Low. An Alberta Clipper is basically a system that develops off the lee of the Rocky Mountains in Alberta. That's pretty basic. And a Colorado Low is pretty much a low pressure system that develops off the mountains of Colorado, off the Rockies over there. Pretty simple explanation. But what you're going to see is you're going to see two areas of low pressure start to develop right here. The first one, you're noticing this right here with the snowfall coming in through parts of Montana, Idaho, and even as far south as Nebraska with a few flurries. But then as you start to see going into Friday, you're seeing this low pressure system really start to build up and really start to develop off of the Colorado region right here, you're going to want to pay attention to that, especially as that snowfall dives further to the south right here and really begins to potentially bring impacts to the Midwest. So at least we can give you an idea of how this is going to develop. It's going to be one of those rare combination between Clipper and Colorado low, and those are especially very powerful in terms of snowfall and potentially winds as well. Those also bring a lot of cold air in association with it, which also makes sense because we are seeing an Arctic blast coming in right behind this as well that we're going to want to pay attention to moving forward. And then as we go ahead, we're going to use the GEM GDPS as that's one of those longer range runs, but we can give you a general idea as to how this is going to potentially impact. It really starts to dive down and potentially impact parts of Iowa, Missouri, going into especially Illinois, southern Illinois. It looks like it's going to start off as snow at first for parts of the region right here that's just at or just above the freezing line, and then it's going to turn into potentially mixed precipitation and then potentially rain for you guys before that 5,400 meter line starts to move through. But in the meantime, you're looking at this. Chicago's looking like it's going to get hammered on Saturday. Indiana looks like it's going to get hammered on Saturday. Most of Indiana looks like, especially north of Indianapolis. Right there. I have a couple of friends who live in the Indianapolis area. You guys could definitely see some snow from this. Michigan definitely gets hammered by this. Michigan's that one state I am watching throughout this entire week, actually, that could see the first wave from the Clipper system and the lake effect from that, and now this system as well that could potentially bring a lot of snowfall and even more lake effect because of just how warm Lake Michigan and the rest of the Great Lakes are right here, but this also is going to really impact the Chicago and the Milwaukee area as well. You're going to want to pay attention to that. You're going to want to take this very seriously. You could be seeing a lot of massive snowfall from this as the system moves further to the east into Ohio, Pennsylvania, potentially to New York. This low pressure system does start to move further up to the north, which is why it's going to be more rain slash snow, rain in the lower elevations, snow in the higher elevations as the system starts to move out. But then this is the other system that we're paying attention to. Starting around December 1st, another Colorado low is expected to develop, actually quite far to the south, as a matter of fact, near New Mexico, close to New Mexico, as a matter of fact. And then it's going to merge into a bit of a Gulf system, it looks like, and then really start to bring a lot of impacts. I know the GEM GDPS has a lot of mixed precipitation. I personally think it's or maybe overdoing some of the mixed precip on this. We'll have to see how that happens. It's one of the Canadian runs. I think it's overdoing it a little bit, and I'll see a little bit down the line if that is accurate or not. But essentially, you have another big snowstorm developing and really potentially hammering some parts of the Midwest again, especially Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And southeastern Michigan also gets impacted by this too. So that's kind of going to be the main theme for this as well. And then it moves out right there as a more active snow pattern really starts to take shape going into November. But just for context, I do also want to see the GFS, especially for this early December snowfall as well, just to kind of see what that's doing as well. The GFS is definitely a lot further up to the north than the GEM GDPS. I will say that's not nearly mixing as much frozen precipitation in this as well, but it still brings a lot of heavy snowfall on the 1st of December for parts of Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, and then a second wave the day after that, potentially for there, not going to be as light. But then the third day for December 3rd, you're looking at this, my goodness, this is potentially off and on, multi-inch snowfall for a lot of regions right here, impacting as far east as New Jersey as well. And you're going to want to pay attention to it as the system moves out on December 4th. So that is quite the situation that we are dealing with right here. For you guys right there, and this is going to be the main event. Those two systems are going to be the main event that we're going to want to watch out for as well. And another thing we need to keep an eye on is the temperatures as well behind this. We need to look at how the Arctic blast is going to be moving through parts of the U.S. This polar vortex is going to be moving through parts of the continental United States starting after that Thanksgiving system on the 26th of November right here. This is the day before Thanksgiving. You start seeing that polar vortex start to push a little bit further to the south. Potentially that freezing line goes all the way down to around close to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, in the Midwest and all the way down to Georgia in the Appalachian regions right there that you're going to want to pay attention to. Higher elevations definitely will see colder temperatures as well. And then as you get to Thanksgiving, it warms up a little bit, but then Black Friday, look at how far to the south this vortex goes. Look at where that freezing line is, all the way down to Alabama, all the way down to the Atlanta area in Georgia, all the way down to Charlotte in North Carolina. Alex, if you're watching this video, there's a chance you might be going below the freezing line when you get back to grad school. But essentially, you have all of this happening. This is by Friday morning, and then you start getting into the big snowfall for Saturday. And take a look at this. That freezing line that we're paying attention to, at least according to the GFS right here, goes all the way down once again to potentially Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I just want to check the 12Z from yesterday. It's considerably further to the south in the Midwest. It's definitely taken a bit of a dive further down the line, and we're definitely going to want to pay attention to that moving forward, because if this continues to dive further to the south, we're going to see a scenario where maybe you have a longer time frame of snowfall. And even looking at the 12Z right here, it has kind of kicked back a little bit to the north right here, but essentially what you have going on right there is that freezing line definitely dives further to the south, and we could see a longer scenario of snowfall, especially in parts of Missouri and southern Illinois. Just kind of mainly in that borderline case until this massive Arctic blast starts moving through right here. This is based on the 12Z GFS that's kicking in right now. But by and large, look at this. December 1st, look at how cold this gets. We're looking at, for Chicago, single digits on Monday morning on when everyone gets back to school. This is Minnesota as well, -10, -12. This has been fairly consistent for quite some time, and this continues to remain very cold as well. You're going to want to take this super, super seriously, bundle up, and you're going to want to watch this as well. Shifting back to the 0Z to go long-term, December 4th, looking at this, the GFS does want, is close, like single-digit temperatures all the way down to Indianapolis in Missouri. I don't know how realistic that is. I want to check the 12Z from yesterday. It's not far-fetched, actually. Just shifted pretty far to the east. So there's a lot of model uncertainty, of course, as to how far south that'll go. But my goodness, this is quite the active pattern that we're going to be dealing with for quite some time. And then as we get to the 7th, 8th, and then the 9th, right here, you could see another massive push starting to form right here in parts of the United States that you're going to want to pay attention to. So overall, a very active December to see and to start how this is ultimately going to go. But now we're going to go ahead and check snow accumulations for you guys just to kind of take that into consideration. We'll start with the NAM with the Clipper system because that definitely can show some more accuracy right here. Going into Thanksgiving and pretty much Black Friday right here, taking a quick look at that, you're looking at about 6 to 8 inches of snow across parts of Minnesota, parts of the Dakotas. Wisconsin and Michigan over here do see some more lake effect snow. The NAM wants potentially 2 feet of snowfall for parts of Wisconsin and parts of the Upper Peninsula up here. Western Michigan definitely sees quite a bit more snowfall than what we've seen, mainly due to the lake effect. For example, we're looking at over a foot of snow just outside of Traverse City over here, a little bit of ways from that, and potentially even in Grand Rapids up to 3 inches of snow as well. That's why I say you got to watch Michigan, folks. That could definitely be a big problem. And then going into Pennsylvania, this isn't even stopped just yet, but potentially 8+ inches of snowfall for areas from pretty much outside of Buffalo, like West Semantica, all the way to Erie, Pennsylvania, just very close to that in that region as well, that you're going to want to pay attention to moving on. But now we can go ahead and also show you the European forecast for snowfall right here. Taking a quick look at this. This is what we have for the system on the 29th and the 30th right here. Look at this. Areas in Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, especially Michigan over here, gets hammered by this snowfall potential right here. Taking a quick gander, this Chicago, potentially 11 inches of snow. On top of some of the lake effect we had right here, another 10+ inches of snowfall for parts of Michigan as well. You're going to want to take that super, super seriously as well. Detroit could definitely see some more snowfall from that as well. Indianapolis even could see snowfall as far south as there. So you're going to want to pay attention to that going into Ohio as well. Kind of that snow line kind of halts pretty much a bit north of St. Louis, a bit south of Springfield, Illinois as well. So we're going to want to see if this cold air continues to dive a bit further to the south as well. But this is a considerable shift from what we've seen previously. I mean, I can show you the 12Z run. This is the run everyone was talking about right here at this current point when I was posting it on my Instagram story as well. This is what everyone was talking about. The 0Z is arguably even more powerful and even more widespread right here, although it's mainly going to be impacting areas like Wisconsin, much of Iowa, and Chicago. Millions of people are going to be impacted by this, and you're going to want to take this super seriously. And also showing you the GFS. The GFS is pretty interesting. Doesn't show as much snowfall, which is in a bit of a disagreement to the European, I would say. Looking at potentially 3 to 5 inches of snow across much of the widespread area in the Midwest. A bit of a drop for that right there. But then as you get to December 1st, December 2nd, December 3rd, that's when your big snowfall hits much of the Midwest, although the GFS wants this to happen in waves, and the GFS also is going a bit overkill and wanting 2 feet of snow to fall. I think that's a little bit too much GFS. Taking a quick gander at the European, not even going at that current point. You're looking at potentially another few inches of snowfall from that December 3rd system, according to that. So there's a bit of a mismatch right here. But I do want to check the GM GDPS to see what that's going for. And oh my goodness, the GM GDPS is very, very aggressive with this. I just want, for my own curiosity, to see how this is going to pan out. But the GM GDPS wants St. Louis to get the bulk of the system, the bulk of the snow right here, potentially up to, what is this, just north of that, potentially 17 inches of snow that far to the south. I want to see what the temperature, the GM GDPS is predicting with those temperatures very quickly. Right there. The GM GDPS, what it wants is, it wants temperatures to be in the 20s when it starts, and for that freezing line to just barely go over and then start snowing again. There is obvious initialization issues with the GEM GDPS, and I am not going to trust that for obvious reasons. Now, do I think some of the more reasonable estimates? I think the GEM GDPS is definitely more reasonable to the euro, but for areas that, like this massive stripe right here, yeah, I don't see that happening. But I do, but overall, it's the GEM GDPS is aligning with what the European model is going for at this current point. So that is something to take into consideration. But ultimately, that's what we're paying attention to right here. And then as we get to the second and to the third, the GEM GDPS wants another massive system to impact Illinois, Indiana, up to Michigan as well. You're going to want to watch that as well, but also you're looking at the GEM GDPS. I think that's also a little overkill. 20 inches of snow for parts of central Illinois. I don't think that's going to happen at this current point. We'll have to see what happens. By overall, we'll need to, it's a little too early to determine just how much snowfall we're getting, but we're getting better and better indications as more medium range models are starting to kick in. And we're starting to get data from that as well. But overall, you're looking at a very active week coming up, and you're looking at some pretty significant snowfall for a lot of the Midwest and even parts of the northeastern United States as well. And that's going to continue all the way through December. You might see a little bit of a break with that ridge starting to emerge on the GFS, but we'll have to pay attention to it. And overall, we're in for a very, very crazy and very active winter, in my opinion, just based on, number one, the early stuff we're getting now, and number two, the climatology behind this as well. And the European, I will say, definitely just a quick gander at this, by the time we get to the 8th into the 9th, this is what it's forecasting right here, mainly mountain snow after that, but what we got going on is the start of a pretty interesting situation, and I also will say travel impacts are going to be very concerning for me, mainly because, number one, I have friends and all that stuff that are going driving to and from places and to and from school and all of that stuff, especially this weekend, so I'm looking out for them. And number two, just overall, the Thanksgiving travel is going to be very impacted, regardless of where you are in the Midwest, because of these snow systems. So we'll keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel We'll keep you informed and we'll get you the latest data when it comes out. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.